Noah, an 18-year-old with a pure heart and an innocent soul, never imagined his simple, peaceful world would turn into a dangerous game. But his deep love for Mia, the bold and impulsive girl who had captured his heart, led him down a path filled with chaos, a path whose end was uncertain. Noah believed love meant loyalty, but what he didn't know was that Mia harbored dreams entirely different from his own, dreams capable of changing everything on one fateful night. Mia, despite Noah's deep affection for her, carried a different feeling in her heart. She convinced herself that she loved Noah, or so she thought. Noah was kind, devoted, and always made her the center of his universe. Yet deep down, she felt suffocated, longing for adventure and craving something new. Mia sought the extraordinary, something Noah, with his calm and steady nature, could never provide. On a Friday evening, the university announced a grand party to celebrate the end of midterm exams. It was the event everyone was looking forward to: lights, loud music, free drinks, and an atmosphere brimming with excitement. As expected, Noah and Mia attended together. Mia spent hours choosing the perfect dress, a short red number that highlighted her beauty. She knew it would turn heads. Noah, as always, couldn't stop complimenting her. "You look stunning, Mia. I don't think anyone will be able to take their eyes off you," Noah said, admiration shining in his eyes. Mia smiled, but her gaze betrayed something else. "Thanks, babe. Let's make this night unforgettable." The party was electrifying. Music blasted through the hall, laughter echoed among friends, and drinks flowed freely, fueling everyone's energy. Noah, ever attentive, ensured Mia was comfortable. He stayed by her side, always mindful of her needs. But Mia's mind was elsewhere. She noticed Noah's close friends, Jason, Liam, Ethan, Derek, Tyler, and Matt, gathered near the bar, laughing and joking with an air of confidence. Their boldness and charisma set them apart in Mia's eyes. There was something magnetic about their demeanor, something that ignited dangerous thoughts within her. This wasn't the first time such thoughts crossed her mind, but tonight, with the charged atmosphere and the influence of drinks, she felt it might be the perfect moment to step outside her usual boundaries. She wondered how it would feel to give in to her desires, to take a step into the unknown. Mia began to play her game, subtly and skillfully. Long glances, enigmatic smiles, and suggestive body language. It didn't take long for Noah's friends to notice. They exchanged knowing looks and smiles while Noah, engrossed in conversation with his classmates, remained oblivious to what was unfolding. Leaning into Noah's ear, Mia whispered, "I'm going to the bathroom with Sky to fix our makeup. We might take a while, so don't worry." Noah smiled lovingly and said, "Take your time. I'll be right here waiting for you." Mia left, her heart pounding, but it wasn't guilt or fear she felt. It was exhilaration. She made her way to the bathroom where Jason was already waiting as planned. She stepped in and closed the door behind her, embarking on an adventure she knew would change everything. Moments later, Jason entered, his confident smile lighting up the room. "Well, it looks like tonight's going to be more exciting than I expected," he said. Mia returned his smile, her expression daring. This was just the beginning, a beginning to a story that would be unforgettable but was sure to upend everything. Noah, the simple and pure-hearted young man, never imagined that the beautiful world he had built with Mia would turn into a nightmare in an instant. The morning that changed it, everything started like any other. Golden rays of sunlight slipped through the curtains, casting their glow on Mia's peaceful, sleeping face. Mia was still sound asleep, while Noah, as usual, woke up early and gazed at her with admiration. He often spent his mornings watching her, convinced she was all he ever wanted in life. But on this morning, something felt different. A strange feeling tugged at him, a sense that something had changed the night before. Mia had smiled and danced, but she had seemed distant. Something in her behavior had stirred unease in his heart. Still, he pushed the feeling aside. For him, love and trust were everything. Leaving her to sleep, he headed to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. He cracked eggs, placed bread in the toaster, and soon the fresh aroma of coffee filled the air. Suddenly, the buzzing sound of his phone broke his focus. The phone was on the table, its screen lighting up with a new email notification. The subject line was striking and ominous. "You need to see this." With cautious curiosity, Noah picked up the phone and opened the email. The message was brief but devastating. You deserve to know the truth. Last night, while you were waiting for her, this is what she was doing. Your friends betrayed you, and so did she. These videos are already spreading. Everyone knows. Noah froze in place, unable to process the words. Several video files were attached to the email, each labeled with a name. Jason, Liam, Ethan, Derek, Tyler, and Matt. His hand trembled, his heart racing, but he clicked on the first video, unable to resist the mix of curiosity and dread. The footage was grainy but clear enough. In the video, Mia was inside the university bathroom, her back against the wall, her red dress pulled up, and Jason. Noah couldn't watch more than a few seconds. He closed the video abruptly, his chest tightening with unbearable pain and betrayal. Yet he felt compelled to keep watching, as if he needed to confront the truth no matter how much it hurt. He opened the second video, then the third. With each one, the pain in his heart deepened. Every video was another stab at his trust in his friends, and in the girl he had loved more than anything else. His world was collapsing around him. When he finished watching the videos, he threw the phone onto the table and leaned against the wall. His eyes filled with tears, his emotions a mix of anger and sorrow. He couldn't think straight. How had he not seen this coming? How could everyone have betrayed him so easily? In the bedroom, Mia was still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm brewing in the kitchen. For Noah, this was the end of innocence, the end of the trust he believed could never be broken. For Mia, it was just another morning, unaware that her secrets had been exposed and that her perfect world was about to crumble. Noah's chest was heaving with short, deep breaths, and his vision blurred with tears. He staggered back, gripping the edge of the table for support. "This can't be real," he whispered to himself. "It has to be fake. It has to." But deep in his heart, he knew it was true. The details were too vivid, the videos too damning. His world was collapsing all at once. Noah's mind raced back to the events of the previous night, Mia's provocative behavior, her sudden disappearance, his friends vanishing for long stretches. Everything added up. Reality hit him like a speeding train. Mia had betrayed him. His thoughts spiraled out of control, a whirlwind of emotions consuming him. Anger, heartbreak, humiliation. He felt like a fool, a naive idiot who had trusted her and his friends without question. These videos weren't just a betrayal of their relationship. They were a public humiliation, an open wound for everyone to see. Noah turned to look at Mia, still sleeping peacefully in bed, her face calm and untroubled. Seeing her like that, so serene and unaware, made his blood boil. How could she sleep so soundly after everything she had done? How could she destroy him and act as if nothing had happened? Clutching his phone tightly, dark thoughts began creeping into his mind. For the first time in his life, he felt something dangerous, something violent brewing within him. But he shook his head, forcing the thoughts away. "This isn't me," he whispered to himself. "I have to be better than this. I can't let these thoughts take over." Instead, he started pacing the apartment, running his hands through his hair and muttering to himself. What was he supposed to do? Should he confront Mia now, wake her up and demand answers? Or should he leave? Walk out of the apartment, leave the city, leave everything behind. Suddenly, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from an unknown sender. His stomach sank even further as he read the text. "This is everywhere now. They sent the video to the group chats. Everyone's seen it." Noah's humiliation was no longer private. It had become public. His classmates, his professors, the entire college, everyone knew. He imagined the whispers, the stares, the cruel laughter, and it made his skin crawl. He glanced at Mia again, still asleep and oblivious, while the words from the message replayed in his mind. "She betrayed you." With trembling hands, Noah opened one of the videos again, forcing himself to watch it. Every frame, every sound was a painful reminder of her betrayal. With each passing second, his anger grew. By the time he closed the video, his rage had reached its peak. He couldn't hold it in anymore. He stormed into the bedroom, his footsteps heavy and deliberate, as if the weight of his anger was too much to bear. He stood over Mia, his shadow falling across her face. She stirred slightly, but didn't wake. His heart pounded in his chest, but his voice, when he finally spoke, was low and trembling with fury. Mia. She opened her eyes slowly, blinking up at him. Noah, what's wrong? She murmured groggily. He didn't answer. Instead, he held his phone up to her face, the video still playing on the screen. Her eyes widened as she realized what he was showing her. She shot up in bed, her face turning pale. Where did you get this? She stammered. That's all you have to say? Noah snapped, his voice rising. You're not even going to deny it? Mia's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked away, guilt written all over her face. You, Noah's voice broke, a mix of anger and heartbreak. You did this. With them, my friends. You lied to me. You said you were going to the bathroom with Carla, and then you... I'm sorry, Mia whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. I was drunk, and it was just a stupid mistake. A mistake? Noah's voice thundered. You call this a mistake? 6 times, Mia, 6 times. Mia's lips moved as if to say something, but no sound came out. She looked down, unable to meet his gaze. Noah stood there, his world shattered, his anger and pain battling for control. This wasn't just betrayal, it was destruction. Everything he had believed in, everything he had trusted, was gone. 6 of my closest friends. Was I not enough for you? Noah's voice broke as he looked at Mia in despair, his words cutting through the silence of the room like a blade. Tears streamed down her face and she stammered. I don't know what to say. I never wanted to hurt you, Noah, but I was bored. I needed something different, something exciting. Bored, Noah repeated, his voice trembling with disbelief. You were bored, so you decided to humiliate me? Betray me in the most disgusting way possible? Mia sobbed harder, burying her face in her hands. I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't think anyone would find out. But they did, Noah said, his voice growing louder, anger boiling over. Everyone knows now. The entire university is laughing at me because of you. I'm sorry, she cried, her voice shaking. I'll do anything to make it right. Please, Noah, I didn't mean to hurt you. Her words fell on deaf ears. Noah's heart was shattered, his trust broken beyond repair. The girl he loved with everything he had betrayed him, and nothing she could say or do would ever fix that. As he stood there staring at the woman who had destroyed his world, a dark thought crept into his mind, one he couldn't ignore. His chest pounded, his hands trembled with a mix of rage and disbelief, and his vision blurred with tears. The girl he had trusted with his whole heart was now the embodiment of his greatest betrayal. Her tears only fueled the storm brewing inside him. Every sob felt like a cruel mockery of the pain she had inflicted. Mia sat on the edge of the bed, tears streaming down her face, repeating her apologies. I didn't want this to happen, Noah. I didn't think it would hurt you like this. I thought it was just a moment. It didn't mean anything. Those words hit him like a hammer. It didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything. To her, their relationship was something disposable, insignificant. Noah clenched his fists so tightly his nails dug into his palms, leaving marks. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but the intensity in it sent chills through the air. It didn't mean anything. 6 people, Mia. 6 of my friends. You planned this. You went out of your way to destroy everything we had. Don't you dare say it didn't mean anything. Mia flinched at the venom in his words, but somehow she managed to meet his eyes. I didn't destroy us, Noah. You're overreacting. People make mistakes. That was the breaking point. The casual way she dismissed her actions shattered something deep inside him. He stood there for a moment, silent and still, before he turned and walked out of the room, heading toward the kitchen. Mia stayed where she was, crying softly. Her sobs began to quiet as she assumed Noah had left to cool off. She thought he needed time to process, to vent his anger. She didn't move. She was drowning in guilt and regret, convinced he'd eventually come back to yell at her, then storm out. She had no idea what was coming. In the kitchen, Noah opened a drawer and stared at the collection of knives inside. His mind raced with thoughts he couldn't control. Images of Mia with his friends, the laughter of his classmates as they watched the leaked videos, the whispers behind his back. His life was in ruins, and she was the reason. His hand trembled as he reached out and grabbed a large knife, The cold steel felt heavy in his hand. For a moment, he just stood there, staring at it, his distorted reflection glaring back at him in the blade. The thought echoed in his mind, louder and louder, drowning out all reason. She doesn't deserve to live after what she did. He walked back to the bedroom, the knife hidden behind his back. Mia was still sitting on the bed, her face buried in her hands. When she heard his footsteps, she looked up, her red, swollen eyes meeting his. "Noah," she began, her voice trembling. "I know you're hurt. I know I've done something horrible, but please, let's talk about this. We can fix it." He didn't respond. He stood there, staring at her, his expression unreadable. "Say something," she pleaded. Finally, he spoke, his voice unnervingly calm. "Fix it? You think we can fix this? You think there's anything left to fix?" Her eyes darted to his hands, and for the first time she noticed the knife. Fear overtook Mia's face as her breathing turned shallow and erratic. "Noah," she said slowly, her voice trembling. "What are you doing?" He took a step closer, his grip tightening on the knife. "You destroyed me, Mia. You ripped my life apart. Do you even understand what you've done?" Her eyes widened as she instinctively began backing up on the bed. "Please, Noah, put the knife down. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you like this." "Sorry," he repeated, his voice rising in anger. "Do you really think an apology is enough? Do you think I can just forget what you did?" Suddenly, he lunged at her, slashing at her arm with the knife. Blood spattered across the bed as Mia clutched her wounded arm, trying to scramble away. "Noah, stop, please!" she screamed, her voice breaking. "I'll do anything, just don't do this." But her pleas fell on deaf ears. The betrayal, the humiliation, the rage, all of it consumed him. He raised the knife again and stabbed her in the shoulder. Mia's screams echoed through the apartment, louder and more desperate with each second. "You destroyed me," Noah bellowed, his voice trembling with fury. "You turned me into a joke. You turned my life into hell." Mia tried to resist, grabbing at his arms, but she wasn't strong enough. He stabbed her again and again, each thrust of the knife fueled by the storm of emotions raging inside him. The bed was soaked with blood, the metallic stench filling the room. "I loved you," he shouted, his voice cracking. "I would have done anything for you. And this is how you repaid me?" Mia's resistance began to weaken as her strength faded. Her voice turned into a faint whisper, her words incoherent. Tears streamed down her face as she looked up at him, her eyes filled with fear and regret. Noah stopped for a moment, panting heavily, his gaze fixed on Mia's bloodied, lifeless body. She was barely alive now, her breath shallow and strained. He hesitated, the weight of what he had done beginning to settle on him. But then the images of the leaked videos, the betrayal, and the mocking laughter of his classmates resurfaced in his mind. His anger reignited, and he raised the knife one final time. "This is for everything you took from me," he said coldly. He drove the knife into her chest, ending her life in an instant. Noah stood there, frozen in place, his eyes locked on Mia's lifeless body. The room fell silent, except for his ragged breasts. His hands, the knife, the bed, everything was covered in blood. Slowly, he let the knife fall from his trembling hands. The reality of what he had done began to sink in, and panic overwhelmed him. He bolted out of the room, grabbing his phone and wallet. He had to leave, to run as far away as possible. But in his haste, he left the apartment door wide open. A neighbor who had heard the screams and seen blood pooling under the door immediately called the police. Noah didn't get far. He was apprehended just a few blocks away, still covered in blood. At the police station, he confessed to everything, the betrayal, the leaked videos, and the murder. His voice was cold and detached, as though he were recounting someone else's story. "I wouldn't have stopped," he admitted. "I was going to go after my friends next. They deserve to pay for what they did too." His trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming, and his confession sealed his fate. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The brutal murder of Mia and the events leading up to it became national news. For days, media outlets painted a grim picture of a tragic story, a young man driven to the edge of madness by betrayal and humiliation. While some sympathized with Noah, believing he had been pushed too far, others saw him as nothing more than a cold-blooded killer who took a young woman's life for her mistakes. At the heart of the story were the videos that had ignited Noah's rage. Leaked anonymously, they spread across the internet before authorities could contain them. The 6 friends who had been involved in the betrayal were identified and publicly shamed, their reputations irreparably damaged. Their names were forever tied to the scandal. While Mia's actions were controversial, the betrayal of Noah's closest friends was considered equally appalling. On campus, the fallout was catastrophic. What was once a vibrant, welcoming university became a place of unease and judgment. Students whispered about the leaked videos in hallways and dorm rooms, speculating on the details and taking sides. Some openly condemned Mia and her companions, calling them predators who exploited a young woman's recklessness. Others criticized Mia for her behavior, labeling her selfish and immoral for chasing a reckless fantasy that ended in tragedy. The university administration acted quickly, suspending all 6 friends involved in the incident. 2 of them left the university immediately, unable to bear the public scrutiny and condemnation. The remaining 4 were socially ostracized, unable to attend lectures without enduring stares and whispers. Professors avoided them, and their closest friendships dissolved in the wake of the scandal. The incident also sparked widespread discussions on campus about relationships, consent, and ethics. Some student groups organized rallies to raise awareness about the dangers of toxic relationships and the psychological impact of betrayal. Others debated the role of fantasy and freedom in personal relationships, though no consensus was reached. The university itself was tainted by the tragedy. Its reputation suffered greatly as the media continued to revisit the story again and again. Mia's parents were devastated by her death. The vibrant, cheerful young woman they knew was now gone. Her life became a cautionary tale for others. They faced the dual burden of mourning their daughter's loss while grappling with the controversy her actions had stirred. Mia's mother, Claudia, defended her daughter's memory, speaking in interviews to remind the world that Mia was more than her mistakes. "She was my daughter, my little girl," Claudia said, her eyes brimming with tears during a televised interview. "She wasn't perfect, but nobody is. She didn't deserve to die for her choices. Noah could have walked away. He could have chosen another path, but instead, he ended her life. Nothing she did justifies that." Her father remained silent. Family friends noted that he was deeply affected by the public exposure of Mia's actions, unable to reconcile the image of the daughter he loved with the one shown in the leaked videos. He withdrew completely from public life, avoiding both the media and neighbors who once held him in high regard. The funeral was a somber affair, attended only by close family and friends. A few students came, though they feared the backlash of being associated with Mia. Her father buried her in their hometown, far from the campus and the memories of her final days. For Noah's parents, the news of his crime came like a thunderbolt. His mother, Marcia, was consumed by grief, unable to believe that her loving, compassionate son could commit such a brutal act. She repeatedly told reporters and anyone who would listen, "Noah was a good boy. He loved Mia. He wouldn't have done this unless he was pushed to his absolute limit. This wasn't him." Noah's father struggled to hide his shame. He refused to speak publicly about his son, retreating into himself and avoiding the growing media frenzy. He confided in close friends that he couldn't bear the looks of pity and judgment from neighbors who whispered about how Noah had been raised to commit such a crime. Marcia visited Noah in prison throughout the trial, her heart breaking every time she saw him in chains. "You're my child," she said to him during one visit, tears streaming down her face. "Why did you do this, Noah? Why didn't you come to me?" Noah had no answer. He sat in silence, staring at the cold metallic table in front of him. The trial was one of the most sensational in the region's history. Every detail of Noah and Mia's relationship was scrutinized, from the early days of their romance to the night of the party. Noah's defense attorney argued that he suffered a psychological breakdown due to betrayal and public humiliation, portraying him as a victim of emotional exploitation and manipulation. "He was just a boy in love," Noah's lawyer said in the closing argument. "A boy who trusted the wrong person and was pushed to the brink." However, the prosecution focused on the brutal nature of the crime. They presented Noah's confession tapes, pointing to the premeditated nature of his actions. "This wasn't a crime of sudden emotion," the prosecutor said. "It was calculated, deliberate, and merciless." When the verdict was read, silence filled the courtroom. Noah was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He showed no reaction, his face expressionless as the judge delivered the ruling. In prison, Noah became a shadow of his former self. The boy once known for his kindness and sensitivity had turned into a withdrawn, hardened man. Fellow inmates whispered about him, captivated by the story of a lover who had turned into a killer. Noah avoided interaction, spending most of his time in his cell. He refused therapy and declined participation in prison programs, choosing instead to live in isolation within his own mind. Letters from his mother arrived regularly, but he rarely opened them. Sometimes he would sit on the edge of his bed, staring at the wall, replaying the events of that night over and over in his head. The case sparked a national debate on the nature of betrayal, revenge, and morality. Television programs and podcasts analyzed every aspect of the story. From Mia's controversial choices to Noah's violent reaction, opinions were divided. Some claim Noah was a victim of emotional abuse and humiliation, driven to the edge of insanity by his circumstances. Others viewed him as a cautionary tale about toxic masculinity and the dangers of possessiveness in relationships. Mia's actions were equally divisive. Some sympathized with her, seeing her as a young woman who made mistakes and paid the ultimate price for them. Others criticized her for betraying Noah's trust and her reckless behavior. Ultimately, the story of Noah and Mia became a tragic cautionary tale, one with no winners, only victims. Their love, once pure and full of promise, was destroyed by betrayal, poor choices, and uncontrollable emotions. Mia's grave remained largely unvisited, her memory tainted by scandal. Noah, sentenced to life in prison, became a shadow of the person he once was, burdened by regret and the weight of his actions. The story served as a harsh reminder of the consequences of betrayal and the destructive power of overwhelming emotions. It was a tale that left a deep scar on the hearts of everyone involved, a wound that would never heal. If you'd like to learn more about the psychological effects of betrayal and ways to cope with emotional pain, visit our articles on mental health. Share your experiences or opinions on our social media discussions. Have you ever faced a similar situation? Let's exchange stories and learn how to navigate life's challenges together.